Hello everybody, this is the Vikstrand. Sometimes things doesn't work out for you. Sometimes the star of your movie quits the movie. Why? Because you served the wrong orange juice. This sort of things happens, of course, because orange juice is vitally important. So what do? Well, you recast your movie with an entirely different actor, and you rewrite the script, and you turn it into an entirely different movie, which becomes one of the biggest hits of the year. Solid. This is what happened basically with Beverly Hills Cop 1984. They replaced Stallone with Murphy. In 1986, a similar thing happened. The movie The Golden Child was going to come out. It was going to star Mel Gibson and was going to be a sort of very serious and fantasy-based adventure, but it was not going to be, you know, flimsy or whimsical, stuff like that. It was going to be serious. Recasting Mel Gibson with Eddie Murphy is a good idea, at least on paper. 1986, he was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. He had made 3 absolutely solid movies which everybody liked, and 1 movie that everybody wants to forget. Were they going to pull the same success this time? Let's take a look, because this is The Golden Child. Chandler Jarrell, Eddie Murphy's character, is a private investigator who specializes himself in locating missing children. And his latest assignment is a little bit different. People from the Far East contact him and says that you are the chosen one. And what task does Eddie Murphy has now that he is the chosen one? He is to find and protect the Golden Child. The Golden Child is not just any missing child, it is a magical child. Apparently he can perform magic, and he has the ability to save the human race or some nonsense like that. But the boy has been abducted by the evil Sardonympsa. Was it called like Sardonympsa? That is, by the way, a dumb name for a villain, but played by Charles Dance. Yes, Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. So Chandler is pulled from his usual job in LA and heads off to Tibet to try to find the boy and save humanity and crack a joke or two. Everybody hates prophecies, especially moviegoers, and Eddie Murphy is no stranger. He thinks that why can't a prophecy be that me going to the Bahamas and stuff like that? I agree with you there, Eddie. So this sounds a little bit dumb, but fear not, because it is even dumber actually. This movie feels a bit disjointed, to say the least. The action sequences are awful. It has some of the worst action sequences I have ever seen. It has the fantasy elements are very naff. They are terrible. Charles Dance is an enjoyable cartoon villain, sure, and Eddie Murphy is still Eddie Murphy, and 1980s Eddie Murphy is always enjoyable. Unfortunately, there is not enough material for him, and when you have Eddie Murphy basically being a diet version of himself, that is when the movie starts being fun and starts being boring. Oh god, this movie is boring. The fantasy elements are bad. They are really wonky, especially with tremendously bad special effects and amazingly, disjointed story. You can see this was going to be taken seriously originally. You could see that they changed the entire thing to fit Eddie Murphy. To have this movie to be a straight up adventure drama, it would have tanked miserably. Would it have been even worse than this one? I don't know actually. I really don't want to speculate that one, because oh damn, this is bad. All the tests and all the forced jokes and all the repetitive things, it's bad. It's really, really terrible. I don't know how to explain this more than to say that it is a fantasy movie about mystical powers and the fight between good and evil made boring. And the worst thing is probably that there is probably 2 jokes that is funny in this one, maybe 3. The thing about the Bahamas is kind of funny. The joke with the bad guy with bad breath, that is sort of funny, and the knife sequence at the airport, that is also kind of funny. But it only is kind of funny. Now, credit is to credit due. They actually went to Nepal to shoot this one. They didn't go to Tibet because that would probably be a bit more difficult and a bit more expensive. And there are some very nice locations, and there is some very nice sequences filmed there, which gives the movie a little bit of an edge to the competition. But no, I think that's about it. The stupidly awful ending is stupidly awful and makes my head hurt just a little bit. For me, when I saw this movie, I could sort of tell that Eddie Murphy didn't like being on this movie. 2 years later, he was trashing it when he was promoting Coming to America and saying, you know, that the script was bad and it could have been so much better. And I agree with him. They would have required a really good director and some more rewrites, I think, to totally nail it. There is just one thing they can't get around, and it is the awful special effects. Again, when a movie is based around the special effects, they better be very creative or they better be very impressive. In this case, it is neither. And that is when your movie stops being cute or at least interesting and start being ugh. The Golden Child remains a huge disappointment in the 1980s run for Eddie Murphy, who almost exclusively did good movies back then. If you are a great Eddie Murphy fan, don't see this movie. Don't do that to yourself. It's terrible. If you like these big budget bad fantasy movies from the 1980s, there weren't too many of them, but there are a couple of them. You shouldn't really see that one either. To be fair, the more and more I think about it, this is actually one of the worst movies that was made in the 1980s, at least with a budget this big and stars this great. Now that I think about it, he is very lonely in this movie. He doesn't really have anything to work with. The few scenes he have with Charles Dance, they are okay, they're kind of fun, but apart from that, he's just lonely in this one. He doesn't have a Nick Nolte, he doesn't have a Dan Aykroyd, he doesn't have the, you know, people in the police station in Los Angeles in the Beverly Hills Cop. He doesn't have any of that. He's just him and a bunch of not very memorable characters. That's a shame. What could have been? The Golden Child is from start to finish a disjointed and very, very crappy movie. The movie is not filled with special effects, it is filled with unspecial effects. There is no saving it. This movie gets the rating of 9. Apart from the occasional chuckle or some smiles, it is an awful, terrible and dreadful comedy with bad action sequences, without any form of tension and without any form of suspense. And I don't care. I just want this movie to end, periodly. For a movie that only is slightly beyond 90 minutes, it feels long, it feels really long. Please make it stop. Summer goes on, it's never ending, it's official, this summer never ends. Jesus Christ, this movie is bad. The Vikstrand is signing out.